Let's fix that a little bit. Hey guys, what's up? Red Master here, and today bringing you a little video. Actually, it may be long depending on the length of it, but regardless, bringing you a video today based on our latest update, patch 3.3. It was announced about a week ago. My videos didn't really get the announcement, so it's been kind of quiet on my channel. But regardless, the patch is here, and today I'm going to be giving you thoughts and analysis of card changes and other general changes that have happened in 3.3. So, with that being said, let's get into the non-card changes, things that have been changed in the game, not related to the cards, obviously. And we're going to hit first off with these guys. No, not this. Castles right here. These castles... except I imagine the legendary castle and the Monster Island castle. Random castles can drop from packs. Now that's kind of interesting, seeing as how most of these castles I received back in the 2.0 days, where you would have to receive a certain rank by the end of the month to get the castle. But obviously I think this is an interesting little change, fun little change at that. You get little castles in with your cards. So obviously a nice surprise to see, you're digging through some cards, you may have gotten some bad pulls, and at the end of it you see maybe the airship castle or the cathedral castle pop up. So I think that's a nice little surprise there, and overall good job with that. Of course, the Monster Island castle I know probably isn't available to the public. That was pre-ordered for Monster Island, and Legendary Castle obviously hit 3K stars, and you'll get it. But moving on to the next one, the next one is actually directed towards Fluxdade. She has now been added to the Monster Island set, which means she is craftable. She's right now, I'll talk about her change as well while I'm here. She got a buff to now 2/7. This, I think, is going to be a very interesting change. Now, for those of you who don't have Flux, I highly recommend getting it either through the promotion, which I don't know if it's still available or still running, or through our crafting. I think having this card is going to be very good, seeing it down the road. Its harvest ability of adding 2 random spells, costing 2 or less is great, seeing as how a couple of spells have now been reduced in cost. So a lot more has been added into Flux's card pool, per se. And, like I said, if you guys remember my video, I have a Flux deck in which I basically centered an entire deck around this card. So it's interesting to see if that's going to make a rise up. But her being added into the set now, I think that was a good change. It takes away her event status, but ultimately makes her, a more easily obtainable card to the general public. Next order of business are these guys. Again, the event cards, I know they're a dangerous topic to talk about, but they got a bit better. Now, each one of them can be crafted. All I think with the exception of our latest one, Frog Prince, which you can disenchant but not craft, all of the event cards are now craftable. Spitefish, Unstable, Titan, Serpent, Hegahorn, who's already craftable, and Yarm Giant. The prices are pretty fair, in my opinion. 300 to disenchant and 1,000 to create. This kind of puts it in a status of their own, regardless of rarity. How they have a common, rare, and epic stats for these guys. They're all at the same price of 1,000. This I like. You're regulating the price on these guys, which is very important, especially with cards that have come out in the past packs and now aren't as easily obtainable. You're making those more obtainable, so now people will be more interested in wanting to maybe try and play these cards. And, you're making them work for it. The 1,000 shards, not everyone has 1,000 ready to pop out. Some might, but, I don't think I know people I talk to probably have about, people who kind of use shards in and out. I know some people are ranging around the 2,000 range. I don't use shards, which is why you see a pretty good amount there, but in case I ever need shards to make things. But overall, making them available to the public, I think, is one of the better decisions of this patch. And finally, our last topic of non-related card changes, not the quests, peasant packs. As you can see, they are no longer based on level, which is unfortunate, but, you know, overall, I think pretty good. I think I opened 3 cards from these packs. I think maybe in the lower tiers, I don't know. I just know it's, I think, 3 all around, maybe. It's kind of sad. You're getting a even more limited amount from your peasant pack sharding, but the bonus is now we receive wild packs instead of boosting our peasant pack levels. We get wild packs every out of each rank up. So I think that's a very good compensation for our missing levels per se. So that was all the non-related card changes. Of course, now we're going to get into the card changes. I'm going to go by the list I have here on the patch notes. I already talked about Flux, so I'm going to skip her. I'm going to go right to Shodan. Which needs to filter. Yeah, Shodan. A lot of text boxes there. Incoming text. But, simple little change there. Health went down from 9 to 8. Alright. I always thought Shodan at his level was powerful, you know, very powerful, a very useful card, no matter what factions you were playing him in. So, overall, I like this change. It still puts Shodan in the higher level of usability. It doesn't really decrease his status. It's just probably easier to take care of if you're the opposing player to Shodan. I think that's just a small minor change that's probably better. Next we're going to... I thought I just did that 7-0. Master at Arms. This guy lost some of his stats, as you can see. He's now a 4-7. He still gains the +4 though, but now he's becoming an 8-7 instead of a 9-9. This I think is probably one of the more negative changes that we see here. Simply because Master at Arms was a great tool for some people in reaching out and destroying something they didn't want to see. A weakened kaiju, even a Shodan that was pushed too far up, you know, throw out a Master at Arms and bam, now you've cleared that out. I don't think he's worth 8 anymore, to be honest. I think he's maybe around 7 like Rune Warrior. And you know, his form movement's still good, which means he's still reaching out. I think now making him 8, I guess you could argue that it now is it still evenly takes out Shodan, but I mean things like Yarm Giant and Ragnar, you're not gonna be able to take out with Master at Arms unless you weaken them already. So one of the more negative changes here. Going now to... Might as well just type it in. Oh, it's a neutral, that's why. Duh. Anyway, our next topic, Sacrificial Altar for cost reduction. It's now worth 2 gold. I think this is an okay change. I really don't know where to stand on this personally because it has been a really long time since I've used an undead deck in competitive gameplay. I used it when they first popped into existence with Monster Island and 3.0, but what can I really say about this? I think now it gives undead players a choice in terms of what they want to get themselves set up with. I know you have cards lurking around like Acolyte for the 2G, so it's a choice between Acolyte and Altar, personally, I think that's what they're trying to go for. It still has the same ability, so still useful if you want to start your swarms out early. And honestly, I'm okay with this change, you know, I'm not really too impacted by it. And I'm sure not a lot of people are too, so just a minor change there. Next we have Aijutsu. It's still 2 gold. Alright, Aijutsu, here it is. Aijutsu, if I'm pronouncing that right, I know there's really going to be a way to determine if that's an I or an L. I've heard it being an I, I've heard it being an L. I guess we're going to talk about logistics later in that, but Aijutsu, giving a melee unit Awaken, so same as always, Plus 8 attack. This card now I can say reinforces that Awaken is not a forgotten archetype, if you want to call it that. I think we've always seen Awaken in competitive gameplay, especially towards the top tier. You're always going to see, you know, the occasional someone busting out an Awaken deck to complete maybe a quest or just because they feel like it. I don't see this card really played in there because, you know, it's sort of like, alright, I'm not going to wait for it unless I have a Saurus, in which I can pop it immediately. If that's your plan, then by all means throw Aijutsu in there, but I think, again, one of the okay changes, because we don't really see this card much in competitive either, next to Altu. Well, I guess Altu you might see more than Aijutsu, but plus 8, I think that's okay, nothing too serious there. Alright, I'm going to group the next 3, because they're all kind of fitting in the same change category. I'm kind of going to go find, you know, pop them up one at a time. But what I'm talking about are the 3 building changes. Temple of the 5 Gods. Might as well just go for 5 here. Armory. And I want to... it's you know, I'm just typing it again. School of Magic. All of these buildings have been reduced in HP by however many to all be a consistent 2 HP. Really, to me, one of the negative changes. But you could argue it's both positive and negative. I explained that over on the Discord. I told them I would go over it more in this video, which I'm about to right now. Of course, an obvious reason why it's negative, they're all have been significantly weakened to be taken out by a predicted dominant card in this patch, Ice Blast. You're dealing 2 damage to everything, that's what Ice Blast does, and of course, now 2 damage is the exact health of your big buildings, your temple, your armory, your school. School, I don't really know if it's as big as armory or temple, but armory and temple are still big buildings, ones that are usually around 4 HP, and were there for a good reason because of their cost. Making them 2, I mean, it's good because now they're not as a substantial threat as they were before. Now they're easily more taken out, but again, that's the negative side of it. They're so easily taken out. They can just, you know, throw an Ice Blast and, you know, a good portion of your buffs have just disappeared. I don't think that it was too bad. I know I've been annoyed by the occasional armory or temple popping in and me not being able to get rid of it, so I just have to deal with it. But I understand both sides of the spectrum on why it's a good change too, you know, or why it's a bad change. I kind of just lost where I was going with that one. Point I'm trying to say is, now that all these buildings are 2 gold, they can be taken out really easily by Ice Blast. I don't know if that's intentional or if it was something that just ended up happening, but not sure if that was the smartest change to do. I would be okay if they were lowered to 3 maybe, so they can fit their cost, but yet be sort of weakened a bit, not to the point where they can just be blown up all in one Ice Blast shot. So anyway, that takes care of the buildings. Secret Technique is our next card to go over. Price hasn't changed. Really, ability hasn't changed, except for the fact that if you know you're adding that random focus card to your hand, it costs 1 less. I like this change. I always thought the Secret Technique was an okay card. I didn't like if it gave me some higher tier card like Fist of the 5 Gods, which that way I couldn't even use it until, like, I don't know, depending on what I had on my field, like turn 8, turn 9, etc. But now that it's reducing the cost by 1, you're going to be seeing a lot more early focus cards come at you. For those of you who do run Secret Technique, this is one of the better changes for you. You're going to be seeing, you know, things like early Eternity Strikes, maybe early Onslaughts. I'll get to Onslaught soon. That card was changed. Firebomb, that's going to be a 1 gold focus card now. So you can see the Secret Technique has impacted a lot of other cards. And I think if you're running maybe a Focus Ninja or generally something that you want to have focus in, Secret Technique is now a great addition to that. Shattering Strike. Cost reduction to 0. It's now completely free to use. Destroying a frozen target. Of course, when this first came out, we were like, oh, we were never going to use that. You know, it takes a slot that could be used more usefully, more effectively. But now you have a situation where you're seeing a lot higher powers, like a Yarham Giant, a Fenrir come out, and you know, you've Ice Blasted them, which already has taken away 5 of your gold. I think if you want to throw that in there, that's okay. It's reported, or it has been reported by numerous players that they've seen Shattering Strike combos already being played, which is a good sign. It means that this card is now being used more, especially with the Ice Blast in combination to more effectively clear the board. So, if you want to see Shattering Strike, that's completely fine. If you don't want to use it, you're fine either way. Just, I want you now to be careful of Viking, because you're definitely going to be seeing maybe a Shattering Strike along with an Ice Blast in the same turn. So, just be mindful of that. Next, we got Dragon's Horde, if I can find the card. Dragon's Horde. Let's see, the cost reduction by 1. Yes, I have that. Now it's 2 gold. And the gain gold effect has been removed from it. Okay, so basically you're evening out this card to make it so that you're not wasting a whole lot of gold on it. So essentially you're wasting the same amount of gold on it. The reduction of cost and the gain 1 gold removal essentially even this card out in terms of costs. Other than that, that's really it. No significant ability change other than just a cost reduction balancing out a gaining 1 gold removal effect. So nothing too serious, and like I said in an earlier video, next to Flux, this may be one of the better RNG cards in the game. School of Knowledge is our next card, so let's type in school there. Now this card got buffed to 4 health. Overall, I don't know if this was a significant change in my opinion, generally because we don't see School of Knowledge played at all much anymore. I know even when it first came out in Warlock Academy, this card wasn't really used as heavily. It just sort of was like, alright, it's there. What do we do about it? What do we do with it? So, if you use this card, good for you. You now have an increased amount of health on the building. If you don't, I don't know how it will affect you, seeing as how School of Knowledge isn't played as much anyway. But it hasn't really changed in cost or ability, it's just a slight HP buff, so that's about it for that. One of the bigger ones now, moving on to Murder for 5 gold. Very good change in my opinion. With all the bigger stuff that's coming out, we've seen with Yarm Giant, Titan Watcher, cards like that are really just general annoyances to deal with it, and you don't want to divert a lot of forces to it. I think this cost reduction in Murder comes in real handy. Of course, with all these other cards like Ninja Training that reduce the cost in your hand, I think having this on hold for not as much gold is another reason for why this was such a good change. You know, I never really carried Murder in my deck specifically because of its gold cost and how that takes away, you know, so much gold to about even, you know, my entire turn. I just have to use it to get rid of the card. But now I don't have to worry about that too much, seeing as how it's 5 gold, you know, and you could save up some gold before you have to use Murder, or, you know, just play it fast and get something out of the way. But overall, I like the Murder change, and if you like it, then great, because you're gonna have a lot of friends who also like it. Faithful Drake. Now this change sort of worried me a bit. Having a Faithful Drake now at 2/4, and a couple of other, you know, dragons that I'll get to. So much of the Ice Drake actually, I might just group them into one. While the Faithful Drake increased its HP to 4, Ice Drake I know has also increased. Wait, is it? Not too old to look. I guess it is in the same one. Let me just. Yeah, it is. Okay. So here, let's just put them side by side for now. Both the increased in health sort of worries me about dragons, about drakes. You know, you could say drake, dragon, regardless. It only further proves the fact that, you know, dragons may be being pushed, just in my opinion. Thankfully, that's not truly the case. When there's actually a hotfix announced earlier today before I made this video, and we're going to be going over that quick fix that sort of contradicts my opinion here on why dragons are being pushed. But, you know, seeing them at more health is kind of disappointing. We've always been trying to preach, you know, that, you know, we don't want to see dragons up top, and especially because, you know, people were pulling out Search for Truth and stuff like that. You know, we really didn't like to see them, you know, just, it was annoying to lose to them in general, to be honest. You know, if your opponent pops a Search and he draws, you know, a bunch of dragons with Dragon Temple out, and, you know, now you get a bunch of buff dragons to deal with, and maybe you were winning. The whole thing can spiral on to many different scenarios. But what I'm trying to just bring a point to is that this is sort of like a negative change. We don't want to see dragons increase in health. We kind of want to see their potential limited. Now you could argue that this change is okay because, you know, they're dragons, it should be tough. I just don't want to see dragons pushed as much as they have been in recent times. So, you know, seeing them given a buff in health, just sort of like, oh, really? I don't want to see that. Anyway, moving on. Ramrus. Is it 2 gold? I'm gonna think he's 2 gold. Is he 2 gold? Please tell me he's 2 gold. Yeah, he's 2 gold. Ramrus, as you can see, has his stats changed. He's now a 3-4. Definitely giving the powerhouse to monsters a bit there. You know, the early game compared to Manfish, which was also changed. We'll go over that later on. I think he's pretty good where he is right now. I don't remember what his previous stats was. Was it like 2-4 or something like that? Something weaker than 3-4. But giving him that extra attack just can help you clear out some early game units, and especially with what we see up in the early game nowadays with units up to 3-4 health, this card is probably on the weaker end of the spectrum than most early tier cards. He's got his knockback though, and his cost hasn't changed, so just the stat change, which I think is good. You're making him more powerful, and you're bringing back monsters into the scene too. I know I've seen monsters pop up in recent times again. You know, their combinations with Kraken and all these different types of movement and whatnot. So I think that was a good change to hit Ramrus. Alright, next we're moving on to Acolyte. Again, you got a buff of health there. He's now a 2-3. That's fine. Again, the whole, do I see zombies much anymore in the tier gameplay? And I do. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen Swarm. They're up there. I think it just kind of enforces the fact that now, what do you want to play? 2 gold, an Acolyte or an Altar? It's just your choice. It's whatever you want to play out there. So, not that much to talk about Acolyte. Guardian is next on our list. Guardian. Guardian has a new ability. His initiative to heal the castle for 1. As also has his health reduced to 5. Which is okay. Not too mad about this. I like his new initiative of giving a castle heal for 1. He's not just a unit that you throw out there and bam, it's a 3-6. I think that's what maybe it was intended to do. But I just think that maybe he's a bit better with this heal. And you definitely play around with it in terms of a combo. I'm actually thinking of something I might do maybe for next week or 2 weeks ahead that'll focus around what I'm trying to talk about. So just keep an eye out for that deck. And, you know, overall I think this is a good change to hit Guardian. Next we move on to the Missionary. The Missionary has been changed. He's now a 3-4. Same ability, same cost. Okay, interesting. You're putting it nearly in the same boat as Guardian, in my opinion, except with a weaker movement and a weaker health, but a more like a higher initiative heal. I don't think too many players are gonna have a problem choosing between Guardian and Missionary. I think it's still gonna be Guardian. Sounds like I was from Brooklyn there for a minute. But regardless, I think the Missionary stats now put it sort of a more equal zone as Guardian. You know, they both heal. They both have 3 attack. It's just, you know, the movement and the health stats are different, and that's going to differentiate them in terms of what you want in your deck. Anyway, moving on to Reckless Knight. Reckless Knight, again, a simple stat change for him. He's now a 3/4 instead of a 2/5. Okay. I think for 3 gold, you should be getting 3 attack, not 2 attack. Still that charge, and now with 4 health, it's gonna be a bit easier to take out. Again, not much to say on this card. It's sort of, you know, staying in the same position where it is. If you're running Knights, you should go ahead and use it. If not, maybe you want to take a look at it now, because if it's 3/4 for 3, that can compare to Guardian. You know, you're sort of getting like maybe the Guardian and the Missionary in terms of movement and stats, but, you know, with an extra charge ability instead of a heal. So, a lot of things going around in terms of what you want in your deck, so I think Reckless Knight's change is okay. It puts it maybe on a more even field with Guardian and Missionary, you know, a lot of 3 drops similar to that, instead of just being a 2/5, you know, instead of focusing on health rather than attack. Next we have our buddies from Salahar. Let's just type in Salahar. Oh, I'm in Crusaders, that's why. Alright. So, out of the 4 Salahar units we have, 2 of them have been changed. We'll go over Salahar Rider first. I like the change of Salahar Rider a lot. It was annoying at 2/4, just throwing that out there, and, you know, being able to maybe even free attack the castle for 2. It was sort of like our early spite face without us knowing about it. I think 3/1 now makes it a lot more tradable with other cards on the field, with the Manfish being changed. Again, I'll go over that. Hunter, Scout, if Scout's going to be more playable, again, he got a change. So, I think this is a good way to revamp Rider for a more effective use in terms of trading out on the board. And then we have Salahar Soldier. A cost and ability did not change, except his stats are moved to 4/3. Swapping the health and attack, I think. I don't know what Soldier's... Actually, I should say I don't remember what Soldier's original stats were. But I think 4/3 makes him, you know, more focused towards attack. And, you know, the weaker health he has, the more easily it'll be taken out by things like Rider. You know, you can trade out a Soldier with a Rider. It just goes to show that they're really making it more emphasis towards early game units. Next, we move on to Witch Doctor. Let's type in Witch Doctor. Witch Doctor, let's see what he was changed to. The passive undead bonus has been removed. As you can see here, he no longer gives his undead units 1 attack for being alive. He now has 3 movement. Okay, so that's a better change on Witch Doctor. I always felt he was a bit slow, just sort of like an extra armory for undead. And 3/3, the stats are okay, especially when you're dealing with that 3 gold. Of course, you gotta kind of stay in that range with all the other 3 gold costing units. So, overall, a good change. He'll still be played in undead decks, mainly because of that last will. You want to get the last will off on a bunch of swarm units at once, and that's always been the purpose of Witch Doctor, in my opinion. He wasn't really there for like the +1 bonus. He was there for the last will bonus, in my opinion. Wizard. Alright, the Wizard. The Wizard is now... what do we think? Okay, I'm just trying to find Wizard. His bolt damage, so, of course, his initiative damage is what they're referring to, now deals 2. Again, I think this was a good change for a wizard. He was definitely unplayable with that 1 damage and those stats. You could argue that he's still sort of unplayable due to his, weak movement and weak stats. But if you're starting out, this is one of your better changes because of the fact that now he's dealing more damage than he did before. It's probably equivalent to like a lightning bolt, which is what he does. He kind of shoots down a lightning bolt. So, I think definitely a better change to wizard than 1 damage. Just, you'll maybe see him more in the lower tiers if you're starting out, but of course in the high tiers, he's always been kind of just this dull unit sitting. If you pull him out of a Maddie, on the other hand, I think his bolt might come in handy for clearing something of weaker stats like a rider again, spitefish, etc. Next we go to the Berserker. He was changed entirely in terms of stats. He was revamped from a 3-5. I'm thinking 3-5. I know he had 3 attack. I don't exactly remember his health, but now he's got 5-2. This shows that Berserker has now been transformed into a unit you want to use to knock things away. Just get him out. Like, if you have something on your base that you don't want to deal with, like, say, something that's high in health, a Ramrus, maybe even a Salahar soldier, whatever the case may be, you can now use Berserker to just knock them back. It also shows that Berserker may not be the smartest choice if you're running an obstacle deck with him. His knockback can nearly kill the obstacles at this point, which is problematic if you're relying on that for base damage. So, definitely a change in attitude for this card. Next we have Fencer. Fencer's change was, to me, a bit iffy. He now no longer has that 7 health that made him such a great 4-drop. He's now actually tied with Serpent Witch in terms of where you want to have him in the deck. Fencer, of course, now he still has the initial 2 attack, but now when that attack goes, he's now a 3-5 in terms of a 3-7. You're gonna see a lot of debate on whether you should have Fencer or Serpent Witch in your deck. But if you don't have Serpent Witch, then definitely Fencer. But I think now for people who do have Serpent Witch, it just put him on a more even playing field with her than his original form. What do we got? I lost my train of thought, or my train of note reading. Gravestalker is next on our list. Gravestalker. Let's see what we got here. Simple stat change. 6-4. Okay, not too bad. 6-4, you can definitely get some things off your base with that. But the fact that he has 4 health, you gotta keep him alive if you're relying on those zombies. So, pretty good change in there. Not too serious, and not too consequential for players who use Undead. Next we go to Headless Horseman. Stat change, or the HP generally just increased to 5. Good. He's getting out longer. He's going to stay out there longer, rather than when he was a 3-4. Again, if you use this card, or like using this card, no worries. I wouldn't get rid of it. Just the fact that now it has 5 HP just makes it better for survivability, if that's a word, if I can use that word. But again, that's really the only benefit you got out of him, just to launch in and maybe murder something like a hunter or something with 3 HP or less. But overall, the 5 health, again, like I said, he's going to be out there longer. Next we go to the Panda. The Panda has been changed to stats of 5-5. Your focus spell, yeah. Same ability. I think 5-5, just clearing it will be a bit easier than it was at 5-6. Again, no real major change there. I say, again, just use this card generally in focus decks. I don't know if it has much place anywhere else. But overall, I think it was a good change to just even out the stats a bit there. And forgive me if I am going through some of these changes, like, oh, here's an HP, things like that. Just because if I know a card that doesn't really have too much significance currently in, the meta or something like that, if you want to call it that, then I'm just going to quickly illustrate it just to save some time. My videos are already as long as they are, and for those of you who have been watching, you know that I can make some long videos. Wind Mage. Wind Defense. Okay, so this is one of the bigger changes of the patch. We finally hit Wind Mage. He's got a cost reduction in 3, which, some think, how does that help? His initiative, however, was also changed to knock all enemy units 2 spaces away. The fact that he pushed your guys with the enemy was sort of like the reason why Wind Mage dominated. It pushed out of range units into range. It pushed certain people into certain positions. Just generally, if you needed a quick little movement boost, you pop down a Wind Mage and bam, everything is right on your opponent, or everything's right on you, depending on if your opponent played it. I think this was a really good change and a necessary one at that to switch it up a bit. Wind Mage has been around for the longest time up in the top gameplay areas, so I think giving him that change was definitely necessary to kind of mix things up a bit. Next, we're going to One-Eyed. Okay, I'm just gonna type in Maddie. Yeah, there we go. Maddie was changed to have a reduced health of 2. Good change. And I say this generally because Maddie's 2-4 made it out on the field longer. And that was sort of like this annoying thing where it's like, oh, I want to get rid of it right away. But, you couldn't because, maybe you needed something earlier on that wasn't 4, so you had to waste 2 attacks getting rid of it. And sometimes Maddie just moved out of the way and kill it, so you'd be effectively wasting time trying to get rid of a Maddie while your opponent builds up a bit. And of course, you don't see that much being played, you don't see those tactics used. But kind of just to illustrate my point, his reduced health was sort of necessary to balance him out with the rest of all these early game units that were coming out. So, a very good change overall for Maddie, of course. Next, we go with Demon Hunter. His HP was increased to 5. I think this is good. Of course, it's always been evenly trading with things like Minotaur or things that were an annoyance on the board. All I can say about Demon Hunter really is that maybe his her survivability will be increased a bit thanks to this little increase in health. I know it's not much. I think it was like from 4 to 5, so not too serious. But again, I think something pretty good because I use Demon Hunter myself, so it's nice to see that little HP buff to her. Next, we got Garden Knight. He also had a sort of change in ability, sort of like what we saw with Guardian. He now also does an initiative heal, again for 1, and the stats of 4/7, so like what we got out of Swordsman. Again, I like this change. It puts Garden Knight in a more usable position than it once was, so not too serious of a change, but also sort of giving him this new revival, if you want to call it, just giving him more of a useful ability than what he once had. And yeah, so again, pretty good. Next we go to Sword. I spelled Sword wrong. Oh dear. Swordsman. His stats have been reduced as now are 4/6. Making it a 4/6 doesn't really put it on the same, field as Garden Knight. I think Swordsman's still on that higher level because of his cleave. I think if you took away his attack, like maybe 3 attack, then you could probably have him challenge Garden Knight for a dex slot. But overall, Swordsman I think is still very useful, still very good, especially with one of the only higher tier units having that cleave, the only other unit having cleave being Warrior. So, they're not too bad of a change, but I think if you wanted to balance out Swordsman and Garden Knight to compete for a deck slot, you maybe have it, maybe lowered him to a 3/6, But then, a whole bunch of other debates can get on about Swordsman not being as powerful, being 3, so. Monk is our next topic. Let's see what Monk had. Monk, his healing is increased to 3, so he effectively now does the same heals as a Dremoth would. Okay. Kind of like puts Dremoth down a bit, if you ask me, but I think Monk does need a bit more action in the field. I've been experimenting with Monk in a deck I have, so seeing this 3 heal change definitely interests me, just because I think he always needed to do more, and especially more because now that you have Garden Knight and Guardian providing some heals, Monk should be, it should only be fair that Monk should get a bit more increase in the health to make him unique from the other 2. And next we have Villaroth. Villaroth has his HP increased to 6. Okay, good. Unfortunately, this is another dragon change that, increased instead of decreased his health, but to Villaroth it's kind of understandable. You want him to last more on the field, especially since he's a legend, and for 6 gold, having him come out at 2/5 and being probably destroyed by a Demon Hunter or something that's already out, sort of just defeated the purpose of playing Villaroth in the first place. So giving him that buff, along with any temples that you may have out, definitely increases his value, and just solidifies him as a legend, especially with that ability too. Makes him more dangerous per se, we'll call it that. Next we move on to Smithy. I don't know why they have Smithy in here. I guess maybe you shouldn't have the same cards per se. But regardless, I think the Smithy change was too much change from him. Generally, you're just getting that, how do you say it? Just having its, costing HP increased for. It's sort of like what your Guardian was doing, or your Armory was doing. Jeez. Sorry for that confusion. But, just having it increased to 4 health just puts it on a more equal level to Armory, I think. You're still gonna have him passively play behind the enemy, behind your castle, or maybe even a little on the same line as your castle. I just think maybe could have done a little more with him. Maybe give him. I think Smith was a okay change. And by the way, to again, Ventre, you have him here as Smithy on the patch notes, but Blacksmith in the game. I don't know if you maybe should coordinate those names if you want to make, you got to make it Blacksmith or Smithy and not have both, because people are going to be typing in Smithy. And I guess if you type in Smithy, Blacksmith does. Oh, no, it doesn't. Blacksmith does pop up, so let's type in Smith. Oh well. Next change, we go to our Manfish. Our Manfish now has an increased health of 3. Very useful in now surviving the more early game scenarios. At 2/2, he was again just destroyed by what was ever out there, like a Salahar, like a Spitefish, a Rider, any kind of is still destroyed by a Rider. But stuff that had, a weaker attack of maybe 2 or 3 now, they can't just instantly destroy Manfish, which is good, because you want him to survive a bit more earlier out in the field to get him in position for that last Will Explosion. So, I think just pretty good change overall. I would expect to see Manfish a bit more in the earlier on monster deck scenarios. Maybe not. We'll see. Next change is Shaman. Shaman was now a card that originally was considered to be just hella weak. Just hella weak. Now that it has 3 movement, I don't know if it's going to be changing as much. Its draw card is still useful if you're starting out the game. This is really what your go-to for a draw is. You know, once you get higher up, you discover archive and books, etc., etc. But its 3 makes it more useful because it's faster and now can move a bit more quickly, so you can get that one attack in quicker if you want to hold it back. But if you don't use Shaman as much already, then you know I don't expect to see it played more, just because you know it's just 1/1. Yeah, I don't see it play as much. Next, we're gonna go on to Scout. Our Scout is now 3/3. Again, I like this change. Just generally because you know you're seeing a lot of more balanced early game trades. Scout to Hunter, Scout to Manfish, things like that. They even themselves out, so they make it so you're not wasting gold just to damage it. You want to just waste gold to kill from something, you know. So again, good change to Scout. I don't know if I'm gonna see it played more or less, really. But that's just my opinion. Oh shoot, Minotaur. Okay, Minotaur Strike. Dropped to 4 gold. Okay. I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be played more as much, just because you know you're still having that ability where you know you're wasting a good ton of gold just for 5 damage, and you know you have a Minotaur. Great, you have a Minotaur. You're dealing 2 more. Just not as reliable as other focus cards or other damage cards. So just generally something I still don't see played as much. Next we have Onslaught. Onslaught, I think, got a whole lot better. Now you're dealing 2 damage as always, but now you're also drawing the card. The card draw is what's important. Just because you know you're seeing you're not seeing as many draws as often. Just that I've never really seen a reason to play Onslaught, but now I do, because you're getting that card draw. You're getting the extra card, and not for much that for not much gold either. So I think Onslaught definitely had a positive change there. Last Stand, okay. Last Stand, I think, was maybe one of the more dangerous changes we saw. You're giving a damaged melee unit 3/2. Now this applies to any melee unit you have, not just coordinating for knights anymore. You now can give any unit this 3/2 buff. And if you know your unit's gonna die, why not just play it to get, you know, of course, a last stand off on them. So again, more dangerous because now anything can take this. So now you could have, you know, a damage, 1 damage unit gain a 3/2. So yeah, just a bit. I'm gonna be careful about that because I know people do use Last Stand, but just we'll be careful about that. Oh geez, I typed in too many eyes. Incinerate. For 3 gold, it now does 4 damage. Okay, you're kind of reducing both cost and damage by 1. Again, I guess just for earlier damage use, and I'm not going to go too much into this card, just because it's such a minor change that it may not impact the game as much. So just going over that. Witch Bolt is next. Witch Bolt. For 1, you're dealing 4. Okay, so just generally, Witch Bolt is now stronger, I want to say. I think Witch Bolt has always been the card that people have gone to just to clear out some earlier things, like maybe the occasional Sea Witch or things like that. Now 4 damage for 1 gold, that's a bit, that's interesting. That kind of makes the opponent's draw possibly worth it, but Again, I don't see Witch Bolt as much, so it could just be one of those minor changes. I've probably been talking for a while, but thank goodness it's nearly over. Next, we got Dagger Storm. Dagger Storm does just a simple 1 damage to all enemies. That's fine. I never saw Dagger Storm as much in the higher stats. This one can sort of be used like an extra headwood, just dealing 1 damage to all enemies. I don't know if it was worth it to change Dagger Storm. You got a lot of early damage cards as it is already, with Witch Bolt now being an even higher damage amount, and things like Chaotic Storm still existing. So I think bringing it down was okay, but you know, when you have all these other removal options, you know, you have to consider, is this the best one for me? But that was an interesting change to Dagger Storm. Curse of Exhaustion. Curse of Exhaustion now gives all enemy units -1 attack rather than -1 movement to all units. Again, with Curse, it was one of those cards that was never really used in general, first of all, because of its such, you know, weak ability, and, you know, why would I play this card when there are such better options? And again, you could see that, but, I don't know if Curse is going to be played that much, as much, you know, increasingly. Deflecting Shield. Alright. Again, I don't want to go too deep into this. I know this card has been definitely heavily talked about, and now if it's 2 gold, giving Deflect, well, I guess, yeah, I think it got better, in my opinion. It can no longer be invulnerable to attacks, and now just can't be damaged by spells. So I think this is a necessary change. We've seen Deflecting Shield be used in the aura combo of unit health buff Deflecting Shield. That combo is going to die out. So hopefully this was a necessary change to sort of relieve us from the aura monstrosities that was that annoying combo that I hate so much. But next we're gonna move on to Sushi Shack. Again, one of the cards that wasn't prominently used back in the time of its release. Well, I guess it was. Again, with Sushi Shack, you gotta think, you know, was it worth it to even pick up in the deck? To me, Sushi Shack was never appealing to me, but its cost of 1 gold, I think, probably was a necessary change to just... I can't really say much about Sushi Shack, to be honest. I don't use this card, nor do I see it played, except in tournament when, you know, you pick it up, but, yeah, just, yeah. Next, going on to Patient Study. I probably just passed it because I'm a dumbass. Yes, I am. Patient Study, you're returning, of course, well, I guess its ability hasn't changed, but is only of 1 gold, so not too heavy of a change from its original 2 gold, but just, you know, I haven't seen this card much being played, so again, how will it fold out? I know I'm actually getting pretty exhausted talking about all these different cards, so we've been through the whole list, nearly the whole list. All we have is 3 left. Vanishing Strike. Giving a melee unit +4/+4, and it returns to your hand after combat. Good. I didn't like seeing range units with this Vanishing Strike, so I think overall, just a pretty good change, to be honest. I know some people complain 4-4 for 2 gold. That's OP. It's not, especially when there's a bunch of options that you can do before Vanishing Strike hits an opponent. Especially since generally the card is going to disappear anyway after you beat it, so it'll return to normal stats anyway. So, with that, we'll move on to Special Delivery. Special Delivery. Special Delivery. Special Delivery now has just been reduced to 4 gold. 4 gold. 4 gold. Again, same ability. Kind of throws into the competitive slot with Ice Blast per se. Not much to say about this card other than the fact that it was changed to compete with Ice Blast, I guess. I don't know. Its ability really hasn't changed, so. And then finally, the card that was probably the happiest to hear and was just announced, Search for Truth has been changed. Now for 5 gold, you're only drawing 2 cards, and any of the dragons can be played for free. I know the play for free still sounds dangerous, but the 2 cards is what's important. You're limiting the card draw, so now things won't be seen as much. And hopefully this kind of dies out the dragons a bit. But just, I think this is a necessary change, especially to limit dragons out. I'm very happy for most people now that Search is dying out. Hopefully this will impact dragons maybe a bit, maybe much. We'll see as time passes. So that was it. That was patch 3.3. If you guys enjoyed, please make sure to like, share, and share, and comment on the video. And if you are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button. All of your support just all of your support just makes me want to keep making more and more of these videos. I thank you for watching, and until the next, jeez, this screen, I don't know how that camera's been changed. That's scary. I don't know how long that's been there. Anyway, regardless, hopefully I will see you in the next video, Hidden Combos. I might postpone that release to tomorrow. I'll maybe record it today, but I'm just going to give people time to watch the patch 3.3 video without worrying about the Hidden Combos. I'll probably be making that, I'll maybe make it soon. I mean, I probably might make it now, but maybe not post it till tomorrow. We'll see. Maybe I'll post it today, maybe tomorrow. But until that time comes, and until the next video, I will see you guys later. And until then, stay gaming.